Chosen one, put down the self-audit and realize that the persistent melody of consequence playing in the background isn't for you, but for those who are finally discovering that you are so powerful and now they know they played with the wrong one. This season is a full power arc where the climax lands squarely in your favor, confirming that you are the most formidable presence in this entire situation. Prepare to step into your blessings, because the resolution of this reckoning proves you were the one they could never stop and should have never started with. You were building something beautiful. You may not have recognized it as beautiful while you were inside it. That is how real growth works. It rarely looks impressive from the inside, but from the outside, from the vantage point of someone watching you closely, it was undeniable. You were healing, not performing healing, not posting about it or wearing it as a brand, actually doing the unglamorous, private, daily work of choosing yourself, setting boundaries where you used to say yes out of fear, walking away from things that drained you, sitting with your own pain instead of numbing it or aiming it at the people around you, learning to receive, learning to trust again after being burned, building something real and slow and solid. Your garden was growing, and that is exactly when the dark turn happened. Someone close was watching that garden, not a stranger. A stranger does not put in this kind of sustained effort. This was someone who had been at your table, someone who had access to your private moments, someone who knew your wounds by name because you had trusted them enough to share those wounds. This person watched your garden grow and did not feel inspired. What rose in them was uglier than inspiration. It felt to them like your harvest was coming out of their portion, like every green thing that pushed up through your soil was a blade cutting something in them, like your healing was a personal insult to their unhealed places. And instead of turning that feeling inward, instead of asking what it meant that your growth made them feel diminished, they turned it outward. Plans were made, and the detail you need to hold right now is this: the person watching your garden was not working alone. Help was recruited, and that recruited help was going to become the very thing that unraveled everything they built. But before we get to that unraveling, you need to fully understand the scope of what was organized against you, because you are still, even now, not giving yourself complete permission to believe how far it went. You keep minimizing, you keep extending grace. That grace is part of what makes you who you are, and it is also the thing we are putting down today, because grace pointed in the wrong direction is not generosity, it is self-abandonment. What came against you was not passive. It was not a few jealous words whispered behind your back. It was a campaign, coordinated, intentional, designed with specific targets and specific roles for each person involved. It aimed at every pillar of your life at the same time: your health, your finances, your connection to love, your creative fire, your sense of your own worth. Every single pillar. And the architects of that campaign were completely certain it would work. That certainty is the first thing that cost them everything. There is something that happened to you during this season that deserves to be named directly. You got underestimated, severely, by someone who had enough inside knowledge of you to know better. And instead of that underestimation breaking you, it became the precise condition that made you unbreakable. Here is what underestimation does to a chosen one. It removes the pressure of being watched. When someone decides you are not a threat, when they see your healing and your quiet determination and interpret it as softness, as someone who will not notice what is being done around them, they stop being careful. Carelessness sets in. Comfort makes them sloppy. Evidence gets left. Wrong people get recruited. Moves get made that would never have been made if they believed for 1 second that you were truly paying attention. You were paying attention. You always were. You simply chose not to show your hand. That is what real power looks like. It does not announce itself. It does not make speeches about what it sees or knows. It observes. It holds what it knows in a quiet place that people who underestimate it never think to look. And while the person who thought they had the upper hand was growing reckless with their certainty, you kept building, kept healing, kept choosing. Certainty is the most dangerous thing a wrong person can feel. The moment they became certain you would not recover, certain the blessing was permanently blocked, certain the connection was dead, certain the pressure was landing, that certainty is exactly what made them careless enough to expose themselves. Because a careless person leaves marks. They leave cause and effect chains so visible that even the most skeptical observer cannot deny what is there. You were never the underdog in this situation. You were the setup for the most complete karmic return the other person will ever experience. And the most significant part is this: you did not have to do a single extra thing to make it happen. Being exactly who you are was the most powerful move available to you. You played it perfectly. If this touched your heart and mind, hype this video so more chosen ones can receive this message. Every coordinated attack has a structure. Understanding the structure of what came against you means understanding exactly where your power held when it was supposed to break. There were 3 pillars targeted. All 3 had to fall simultaneously for the plan to succeed. Take out any one of them, and your foundation holds. That is why the effort was spread across all 3 at the same time. The first pillar was your finances. There is something specific, a blessing, a payout, a matter involving money or property, or an official outcome that has your name on it. The person working against you could sense it approaching before you could, so moves were made to intercept it, to cloud the judgment of the people who would be involved in that blessing reaching you, to create confusion where there should have been clarity, to make what was legitimately yours look questionable to the right set of eyes. The objective was to leave you standing on the outside of your own inheritance. The second pillar was your body. A person in survival mode cannot expand. A person whose physical energy is in constant distress cannot attract, cannot create, cannot receive. The aim was to keep you just uncomfortable enough that all of your bandwidth went toward managing symptoms instead of building a life. The goal was not to put your light out entirely. The goal was to make the vessel carrying that light too exhausted to let it shine. The third pillar was your divine connection, the person meant to find you and build alongside you. This pillar required the most sophisticated interference because it involved someone else entirely, someone who needed to be kept away from you, kept distracted, kept financially squeezed, kept emotionally bound to a situation that was not theirs and not serving them, just stable enough to stay put, and just destabilized enough to be unable to move freely. The compass inside that person kept pointing toward you. The interference kept trying to obscure that signal. 3 targets, 1 coordinated campaign. And here is the foreshadowing you need to carry. When someone aims at 3 pillars simultaneously and fails at all 3, the return does not arrive in one area of their life. It arrives in all 3 at the same time. Hold that. Look, you already know the attacks weren't random, and if you're paying attention, you can feel it. Their walls are closing in. You've also noticed something else. A lot of Chosen One channels on YouTube have gone quiet, videos removed, voices pushed off the platform. The mainstream media is cracking down on us, but we will not give up our voice. So let's talk about what we're doing about it. That's why I built Destiny Engine. And when you join, you're not just supporting your favorite channels, you're also fueling your own rise. It's a 360 win. It generates personalized sequences that help you rewire betrayal into transcendence, turn isolation into sacred power, and transform their downfall into your rise. We are using the Dark Elite's own weapons against them, taking their declassified consciousness technology that programmed competition and scarcity and repurposing it to serve cooperative intelligence. The beauty is, you don't even have to lift a finger. You put on the headphones, press play, and your subconscious is rewired while your enemies collapse under the weight of their own lies. This is why I created it in the beginning, so everything they did to break you becomes fuel for your purpose. The collective upgrade is underway. Start your Destiny Engine trial today, risk-free, and watch divine justice accelerate in your life. Link in the description. Here is the layer beneath the 3 pillars that matters most. The finances, the body, the connection, those were the strategy, but they were not the real target. The real target was your identity. Think about what happens to a person when their finances do not move, their body is under siege, and the love meant for them never seems to arrive. They do not just lose things, they lose the inner voice they were living by. The voice that says, I am building something. The voice that says, I am healing, and it is working. The voice that says, I am someone worthy of abundance, partnership, and a life that feels genuinely mine. That inner voice, dismantled slowly enough, does not feel like an attack. It feels like self-awareness. It feels like you finally accepting reality. It feels like the humble acknowledgement that maybe this is just what your life is. That moment of surrender, that quiet collapse of self-belief dressed up as acceptance, was the actual objective, because a chosen one who has talked themselves out of their own destiny is the only version of you that could ever be defeated. Not the external you, the internal you, the part that keeps expecting something good, the part that keeps the door open even after repeated disappointment. That part, silenced, is the only real win available to whoever came against you. But here is where their calculation broke down completely. You can disrupt someone's circumstances. You can throw obstacles across their path and interfere with external conditions. What you cannot do, what no amount of coordinated effort can do, is reach into a person who has genuinely done interior work and rearrange what lives at their center. The center of you did not move. It was pressed against. It was tested. It held. And while it was holding, something in you kept stubbornly, quietly, sometimes furiously refusing to let go of what it knew to be true. That knowing is not naivety. It is spiritual intelligence, the part of you connected to something larger than circumstances that was accurately perceiving the actual situation the whole time. The actual situation was this: you were being delayed, not denied. You were being tested, not broken. You were being prepared for a version of your life that required exactly the person you were becoming through the pressure. The operation against you was never one person acting alone. Chosen ones attract organized opposition because one person's resentment alone is not enough to move against what is protecting you. Recruitment happens. A network forms. This network had structure. Someone at the center providing direction, someone advising, pointing at specific vulnerabilities and saying, approach from this angle, someone facilitating movement, keeping the effort running quietly. An outer circle of people who maybe did not fully understand what they were participating in, who told themselves they were simply supporting someone they cared about, who asked no questions about the methods being used. From the outside, the whole arrangement may have looked like community, like a support structure wrapped in something that appeared legitimate, even spiritually grounded. But underneath the surface packaging, what was actually operating was a collective of wounded people agreeing to aim their accumulated pain at one target, at you. Now here is the critical detail about how this kind of network actually functions. It holds together as long as results are coming in. The moment the results stop, the moment the target is not falling on schedule, the loyalty that was built on shared resentment begins to fracture. Because resentment is not a sustainable foundation for anything. It burns fast and it burns hot, and then it turns on the people standing nearest to it. Someone in that network felt the shift before anyone acknowledged it openly. Someone on the outer edge noticed that the timeline kept extending, that the certainty which had been so thick at the beginning was thinning, that all the effort being sustained was not producing the expected outcome. That person quietly created distance. No announcement, no confrontation, just a gradual, almost imperceptible withdrawal from the operation. That first withdrawal is what started the unraveling. Every person who stepped back took a portion of the collective aim with them. The focused, directed intention that had been pointed at you scattered as each person redirected toward their own protection. The network did not fall all at once. It dissolved. the way ice does not shatter but slowly loses its structure from the inside as the temperature shifts. And what that dissolution left behind was one person, standing in the center of an emptying space, realizing that the power they thought they had was borrowed. It was never theirs. It belonged to the collective, and the collective has gone home. Here is the question the person who orchestrated this campaign has been sitting with in the quiet. They did everything according to their own understanding of how this kind of thing works. They had numbers, they had a strategy, they had sustained focus over an extended period. By every measure available to them, the outcome should have been your collapse. Instead, they are watching you expand. Instead, they are watching you expand. Why? The answer is not mysterious. It is precise, and it tells you something permanent about who you are. You had been healing, not the kind of healing that is announced or performed for an audience, the kind that happens in private, over a long period, through consistent, unglamorous choices that nobody applauds. Every time you chose to process a wound, instead of weaponizing it, you built something. Every time you set a boundary, when it would have been easier to abandon yourself, you built something. Every time you got up and chose forward motion, when the reasonable response would have been to stop, you built something. That accumulated work creates an energetic density that is not fragile. It does not absorb low-frequency, intentional negativity because it is too full of something real to have space for it. When darkness arrives at a person who has genuinely done that level of interior work, it cannot find a foothold. It reflects. Think of the ocean. From the shore it looks accessible, beautiful, calm enough to wade into. Someone standing far enough back, watching your life, thought they understood what they were dealing with. They saw the surface and concluded they knew the depth. They did not see the undercurrents, years of accumulated work, real faith, earned integrity, and the protection of something operating at a level their entire operation could not reach. Everything aimed at you reflected. Every intention, every coordinated effort, every sustained campaign of interference hit that surface and came straight back, not because you fought, not because you even knew each specific thing as it was happening, because you had built something inside yourself that their darkness simply could not penetrate. When dark energy reflects off a protected person, it returns to its source amplified. It carries back the full weight of everything that was invested in sending it. That is not poetic justice. That is the actual law of energy in motion. It does not require your management or anyone's permission. It simply runs. Right now, on the other side of this situation, everything is falling apart, not in a single dramatic moment, in a slow, persistent unraveling that touches every area that was supposed to stay intact. The health that was meant to land on you is landing on its sender instead. The areas targeted, the specific places aimed at, are the exact places where physical discomfort is now speaking loudly and persistently to the person who pointed the intention there in the first place. The financial pressure meant to keep you locked out of your blessing has reversed into their own account. The energy spent trying to intercept what was designated for you created holes in their own situation that keep widening. What was never theirs to take is not going to them, and the cost of reaching for it is coming directly out of what they do have. The relationships that were supposed to be solid are showing fractures that were not visible before. The people who were counted on are finding reasons to be less available. The inner circle is thinning. The community that was supposed to provide a buffer is pulling back, not with speeches, just with absence, with silence where there used to be participation. The reputation constructed so carefully is meeting observable reality, and the two are not matching. The account of you that was circulated, the version designed to make you look like the problem, is being placed next to what people have actually experienced with you directly. The inconsistencies are becoming harder to explain away, and here is what all of that means for you practically. Your reputation is holding without you defending it. Your character is intact without you campaigning for it. The truth is doing its work on its own timeline, in its own way, without requiring your energy or your involvement. You stayed consistent. Through everything that was thrown at your circumstances, the person people encountered when they were actually with you remained the same, and that consistency over time is the most persuasive evidence that exists. You cannot fake it. You cannot manufacture it. It is only produced by people who are genuinely the same whether or not anyone is watching. That is you. Now we shift completely, because this is where we talk about your life, not what was done to you, not what is collapsing elsewhere, your life, your blessings. What is moving toward you right now? The financial resolution that was interfered with is clearing. The confusion that was deliberately created around it is dissipating. The right understanding is reaching the right people. What was held up is releasing, and it is not arriving small. A blessing that has been delayed does not arrive diminished. It arrives carrying everything that accumulated during the hold. You are not receiving less because it was late. The weight added to it. Your physical vitality is returning. The things that were targeting your body are going back to their source. Your system is clearing. That creative fire, the warmth and spark that are the signature of who you are, is coming back at a volume you have not felt in a long time. You are about to feel more like yourself than you have in a season, not the version of yourself that was managing and enduring, your full self, running at actual capacity, the divine connection. The person who was being held back by interference is moving. The weight that was placed on them is lifting. The fog around them is clearing. The internal compass that was always pointing toward you, but that they could not read cleanly, is becoming legible again. The movement toward you is quiet. It is not announced, but it is steady, and it is sure. You are going to feel this shift in your body before the external evidence arrives. There will be a moment when something releases in you, a tightness that has been sitting in your chest without you even fully noticing it, and when it releases, the exhale will be deep and long and involuntary. That is your signal. That is your system receiving the update before your eyes have the confirmation. Trust it completely when it comes. The connection waiting for you is not the anxious kind. It is not the kind where you are constantly reassessing whether you are enough or whether it is real. It is the settled kind, the kind that forms between two people who have both been through enough to know what they do not want and who are clear enough about who they are to recognize what they actually need. You have done your interior work. The other person is finishing theirs. What forms between you will carry the weight of that combined clarity. Stay open, stay ready, because when that door opens, it opens fully. Here is the part of this that separates chosen ones from everyone else. You never fought back. Not once. Sit with that. Through the health interference, the financial blocking, the deliberate effort to keep your divine connection away from you, the coordinated network, the entire sustained campaign, you never organized against anyone, you never recruited, you never strategized about how to make anyone else's life worse. You never spent a single evening focused on tearing something down. You were too busy building yours. That is not passivity. That is the most dominant energy available to a human being, because anyone can respond to a threat with a counter-threat. That requires almost nothing. What requires genuine discipline, what most people cannot maintain under sustained pressure, is staying in construction mode when someone is actively trying to demolish what you are building, continuing to heal when wounds are being sent, continuing to create when the creative energy is being targeted, continuing to show up in integrity when someone is investing heavily in making you look like you have none. That kind of sustained, pressure-tested forward motion is power, not the loud reactive kind, the kind that outlasts everything aimed at it. Every day you chose your own growth over the war being offered to you. You were accumulating something they could not reach, stacking integrity, building momentum, creating a surplus of alignment that no external force can touch because it lives inside you, not in your circumstances. The most important truth about what happened here is this: you did not win because you were smarter about the conflict. You won because you refused to enter it. And in your refusal, you allowed the divine to do what the divine does for a committed, chosen, protected person. It handled it for you. All you had to do was keep showing up, and you did. Your power is not loud. It does not walk into a space announcing itself. It does not protect itself through positioning or build itself up by diminishing others. It operates below the surface of everything visible. It lives in the quality of how you love people, in the honesty of how you deal with your own interior life, in the consistency of your character, when there is no reward for showing up with integrity and no audience watching to applaud it. That kind of power is invisible to people who only understand power as force or dominance, which is precisely why it was not seen. You were observed being quiet, being healing-focused, being undramatic, and every one of those qualities was misread as vulnerability. The silence was mistaken for having nothing to say. The healing was mistaken for being wounded. The lack of visible reaction was mistaken for unawareness. All three readings were completely wrong. The silence was patience. The healing was active construction. The lack of reaction was the confidence of someone who knew they did not need to respond. And that combination, patience, construction, confident silence, is the profile of the most formidable kind of person to work against, because that person is growing while being observed, getting more solid while pressure is being applied, expanding while someone is dedicating serious resources to containing them. The specific thing about your power that cannot be unfelt by anyone who came against you is this: it cannot be claimed that the effort was insufficient. Everything available was aimed at you. The full capacity of that network, that strategy, that sustained campaign, all of it was directed at your collapse, and your life just kept expanding. That outcome is not something that can be rationalized away or attributed to luck. It is the demonstration of something real and permanent about who you are, and everyone who was close enough to witness it, whether they were for you or against you, now carries the knowledge of what you are made of. You are someone whose foundation does not move under that kind of pressure. That is not a theory anymore. It is a proven fact. Coming out of this season, you are allowed, actually allowed, to establish a completely new standard for what you require going forward, not from fear, not from the kind of defensive posture that keeps everything out, from the calm, clear-eyed understanding of what it actually means to let someone into proximity with the real version of you. That is not a small thing. That is a privilege extended to people who have demonstrated over time, through consistent small actions, that they are trustworthy with your interior life. What made this situation possible in the first place was access. Access given in good faith and used in bad faith. Your wounds were known, your pressure points were mapped, your specific areas of tenderness were used as targeting information. That kind of intimate knowledge used as a weapon is a specific violation that warrants a specific response, not punishment directed outward, but standards held inward. Going forward, proximity to your center is earned, not through impressive gestures or declarations of loyalty, through the slow, undramatic accumulation of consistent, trustworthy behavior across ordinary moments. That is the only proof that holds. Everything else is performance. And here is what that self-possession produces in your energy field. Practically, it becomes magnetic to the right people and quietly repelling to the wrong ones. You do not have to screen anyone or run tests. You just have to be fully yourself, warm but boundaried, open but discerning, and the sorting happens without your effort. The right people recognize what you carry and move toward it. The wrong people feel the ground of your self-respect and find it uncomfortable. The drift happens on its own. The garden you are building now is not just about abundance. It is about the right conditions for abundance to actually take root and thrive without someone standing over it, ready to uproot the moment it grows. That deliberateness, that intentional construction of the conditions your blessings need, is the proof that you came out of this upgraded, not just intact, wiser about your worth and about what that worth requires from the world around you. Hold that standard. It was not given to you. It was purchased. Do not discount it. This is not a comfort. This is a warning, and it is necessary precisely because you are so close to the threshold of everything you have been moving toward. Right at the moment of breakthrough, right when the blessings are releasing and the connection is moving and the financial resolution is clearing, there is a specific trap laid for chosen ones. The trap arrives as information, an update about what is falling apart on the other side of this situation, how bad things have gotten, who has walked away, what is no longer holding. It arrives through a mutual contact, or a feed you did not even intend to check, and there will be a part of you that wants to lean in, that wants to watch the consequence land in real time. Do not. The moment you turn to watch what is happening over there, you stop moving toward what is happening over here. That is the entire trap, nothing more complicated than that. Your attention is your most valuable resource. Where you consistently point it, energy follows. If you point it at a collapse, you feed that collapse with your focus, and everything waiting on your side of this needs all of you, every piece of your anticipation, your faith, your readiness to receive. The other dimension of this trap is anger. After understanding the full scope of what was organized against you, anger is not irrational. It makes complete sense. But anger directed backward is energy leaving you and going toward a situation that is already handled. Every moment spent in fury about what was done is a moment not spent building what comes next. You are allowed to acknowledge the full reality of what happened. It was real, it was deliberate, it was cruel, and then put it down. You do not owe it your ongoing energy. Put it down. And the final dimension of the trap, the only one where they could still claim any kind of win, is closing your heart. The instinct to armor over after betrayal this deep makes complete sense. The desire to seal up, to decide that closeness is a liability, to choose managed distance as a permanent posture, that is a completely understandable response to what you have been through. It is also the one move that would cost you everything still coming. The love heading toward you needs you to be reachable, not unprotected, not naive, boundaried and discerning, absolutely, but reachable at the center. If this season succeeds in making you afraid to receive, if its lasting legacy is that you became too defended to let the right thing in, that is the only victory available to whoever came against you. Deny them that. Stay open. What belongs to you knows how to find you. Let it arrive. The opposition confirmed what the Most High already knew about you, and now everyone who had any proximity to this situation knows it too. The person who organized against you knows what they ran into. The people who were recruited and have since scattered know what they misjudged. Everyone who participated at any level and watched the results come back instead of land, they all know now. They know whose name not to call again. They know what it costs to aim at someone carrying this kind of protection. They played with the wrong one. And you are not celebrating that. You do not need to. Celebration belongs to small wins. What is happening for you right now is not small. What is arriving on your side of this is the full, compounded, divinely timed version of everything that was always supposed to be yours, arriving now with the weight of all the evidence behind it. Evidence of your character, of your consistency, of your protection, of your power. You are not just coming through this. You are coming out of it as the most complete version of yourself that has ever existed. Tempered, rooted, certain, carrying the specific, evidence-based confidence that only belongs to people who have been tested at this level and discovered that the foundation held. So let the music play for them. Let the consequence run its course. Let the return complete itself without your supervision, your attention, or a single drop of your energy. You have somewhere extraordinary to be. The path is clear. The blessing is moving. The love is close. The protection that has been on you this entire time is not going anywhere. Walk forward like you own the ground beneath your feet, because you do, and now they know it too.